Let us hear these words again, not quickly, not as a familiar passage we rush past, but slowly, so we do not lose heart. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light, momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. As we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal. Paul does not begin with optimism, he begins with honesty. The outer self is wasting away. There is no denial here, no spiritual bypassing, no attempt to soften the reality of decline. Things wear down, bodies weaken, energy changes, loss accumulates. Faith, according to Paul, does not cancel these truths, it stands inside them. And yet, in the same sentence, Paul introduces another reality. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day, not later, not eventually, not after suffering ends, day by day. That means two things are happening at the same time. One part of life is moving toward decay, another part is moving toward renewal, and those two movements are not in conflict, they are concurrent. This challenges a deeply rooted assumption many believers carry, that if life is getting harder, something must be going wrong spiritually, that if strength is fading, faith must be weakening. Paul says otherwise. He suggests that spiritual renewal often unfolds, while physical, emotional, or circumstantial decline continues, which means tiredness is not proof of failure. It may simply be proof that you are human, in a world that does not last forever. The outer self wasting away is not a sign that God has stepped back. It is a reminder that this life is not permanent, and Paul does not sound alarmed by that. He sounds grounded, because his hope is not anchored to what is fading. This is where the passage begins to shift perspective. For this light, momentary affliction, those words can feel jarring, because affliction rarely feels light, and it almost never feels momentary when you are living inside it. But Paul is not measuring affliction by how it feels, he is measuring it by what it is being compared to, an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. This is not poetry meant to distract, it is contrast meant to reorient. Paul is saying that suffering, no matter how heavy it feels now, exists within a larger scale of reality, a scale where eternity is real, and when eternity enters the frame, everything else is recalibrated, not dismissed, not minimized, but placed. Affliction is real, but it is not ultimate. Pain is significant, but it is not final. This does not make suffering easier to endure emotionally, but it does give it meaning beyond the present moment. Paul uses the word preparing. Affliction is preparing us for an eternal weight of glory. Preparation implies suitability, capacity, formation. Glory, in this passage, is not something thin or symbolic. It has weight, substance, and weight requires strength to bear it. Paul is suggesting that the soul is being shaped now for something that lasts far longer than this life. This is not about earning heaven, it is about being formed for eternity, and formation often happens under pressure, not because pressure is good, but because it reveals what is essential, what remains when comfort is removed, what endures when certainty is stripped away. This is why Paul directs attention away from what is seen, as we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. This is not a call to ignore reality. It is a call to choose. What defines reality? Seen things dominate our attention. They demand response. Deadlines, pain, loss, limitations. Unseen things require trust. They do not shout. They do not pressure us daily, but they do not expire. The things that are seen are transient, passing, temporary. Paul does not say they are meaningless. He says they do not last. And the things that are unseen are eternal, unchanging, enduring beyond the lifespan of the body, beyond the success or failure of circumstances, beyond everything we can measure right now. Hope, in this passage, is not wishful thinking. It is orientation, a deliberate turning of the heart toward what lasts. This kind of hope does not promise that suffering will resolve quickly. It promises that suffering will not define the end of the story. And that distinction matters deeply, because some seasons do not resolve neatly. Some prayers are answered differently than expected. Some losses remain without an eternal frame. Despair feels reasonable, but Paul offers another way of seeing, one where the outer self may weaken, but the inner self is not abandoned. One where affliction presses hard, but glory presses deeper. One where what you see right now is not the whole truth. This is not escapism. It is endurance rooted in reality. A reality that stretches beyond this lifetime. Paul is not asking you to feel better. He is inviting you to see further, to hold present pain without letting it eclipse eternal hope, to remain faithful without demanding immediate relief, because what is unseen is still at work, and what is eternal is still secure. Paul speaks of an eternal weight of glory. That phrase is easy to quote, but difficult to sit with, because glory, for many people, sounds distant, abstract, something reserved for later, while pain feels immediate and real. But Paul does not describe glory as light. He calls it heavy, weighty, substantial, something that outweighs what is being carried now. And weight implies presence. It presses, it holds, it lasts. Paul is not contrasting suffering with pleasure. He is contrasting what fades with what endures. This is why he can say that affliction, however painful, is momentary, not because it feels short, but because it exists inside time, and time itself is limited. There is a quiet honesty in accepting this, that this body will not last forever, that strength will change, that some forms of loss will not be restored here. Christian faith does not deny these truths. It names them, but it also refuses to stop there. Because if this life is all there is, then suffering has no answer. But if eternity is real, then suffering is not the final chapter. Paul's endurance is not rooted in optimism. It is rooted in direction. He knows where life is heading, and that knowledge changes how he holds pain, not tightly, but faithfully. There is something freeing about this perspective. It releases you from the pressure to make this life perfect, to force every season to resolve cleanly, to demand that every prayer be answered in the way you expect. Hope beyond this life does not diminish the value of today. It protects the soul from being crushed by it. Because when everything rests on this moment, the weight becomes unbearable. But when this moment is part of something larger, the soul can breathe. Paul is not teaching detachment. He is teaching trust. Trust that what God is doing now is not limited to what you can see. Trust that renewal is happening, even when decline is obvious. trust that nothing endured in faith is lost. This kind of hope does not make grief disappear. It gives grief a horizon. It says, "This hurts, but this is not forever." It says, "I am tired, but I am not abandoned." It says, "I do not understand, but I am not alone." And this hope is quiet. It does not shout over pain. It sits with it. It allows tears without despair. It allows weakness without shame, because the inner self is being renewed day by day, not in dramatic moments, but in small acts of trust, in continuing to pray when words feel thin, in choosing to remain faithful when outcomes are uncertain, in holding on to God when life does not give answers. This is where the unseen matters most, because what is unseen is not inactive, it is eternal, it is steady, it is held by God Himself. And one day, what is unseen will become visible. One day, the weight of glory will outweigh every burden carried here, not because pain was small, but because God was faithful. Now, let us move gently into prayer. Not a prayer asking for life to change quickly, but a prayer asking for the heart to remain anchored beyond this life. God, we come to you aware of our limits. We feel the weight of this life. We feel the exhaustion of carrying things that do not resolve easily. We confess that sometimes we focus only on what we see, on what hurts, on what fades, on what feels unfinished, and we ask you to lift our eyes without dismissing our pain. Help us to trust that what is unseen is still real, that what is eternal is still secure. Strengthen our inner self, even as our outer self grows weary. Teach us to hold suffering without losing hope. Teach us to endure without becoming hard. Teach us to believe that nothing carried in faith is wasted. We place our lives back in your hands, not asking for quick relief, not demanding understanding, but trusting that you are preparing us for something that lasts. Hold us steady until the unseen becomes clear. Amen. Paul does not promise that this life will be easy. He promises that it is not the end. What you see now is not the whole story. What you feel now is not the final measure. The outer self may be fading, but the inner self is being renewed day by day, and the weight of glory is still ahead, beyond all comparison, beyond all loss, beyond this life.